After sleeping with a stranger, she ends up pregnant with twins, unaware he's a powerful media tycoon. I am so glad you're here for today's story. If this is your kind of content, go ahead and subscribe, because tomorrow I've got another story you won't want to miss. Drop a comment and tell me where you're from. Now let's get into it. The crystal chandeliers of the Paramount Hotel's Sky Terrace cast prismatic light across Melissa Moser's deep brown skin as she navigated through the well-heeled crowd of advertising elites. Her champagne-colored silk jumpsuit, a splurge she justified as celebration of her campaign being shortlisted for the Innovation in Media Award, whispered against her curves with each step. At 27, she'd achieved everything she'd mapped out in her carefully planned life. Prestigious degree in marketing and communications, dream position at Sterling & Associates, and a reputation as one of the industry's most creative voices on authentic storytelling. Girl, stop networking and start celebrating. Kendra Washington, her best friend since their college days, pressed a champagne flute into her hand. The fellow creative director's infectious energy had always balanced Melissa's more reserved, calculating nature. You're brilliant, beautiful, and finally getting the recognition you deserve. Tonight's about celebration, not calculation. Melissa sipped the expensive champagne, letting the bubbles dance on her tongue. The Manhattan skyline sparkled beneath them like scattered diamonds, and for once she allowed herself to feel truly present in the moment. Her box braids, woven with honey blonde highlights, caught the ambient light as they cascaded over her shoulders, and the confidence of accomplishment gave her movements a natural grace she rarely acknowledged in herself. That's when she felt it, the unmistakable weight of someone's gaze. Turning slightly, she caught him watching her from across the bar. Tall and commanding, he wore his bespoke midnight blue suit like armor, but it was his eyes that held her captive, intense and piercing. They seemed to see past her carefully constructed professional walls straight into her ambitious soul. When their gazes locked, the bustling gala faded to a distant hum. "Don't look now," Kendra whispered, her perfectly manicured nails digging into Melissa's arm. "But that's Jeff Lachlan watching you." The Jeff Lachlan. The name meant nothing to Melissa, who spent more time studying consumer behavior and creative campaigns than reading business magazines. Her world revolved around storytelling and brand authenticity, not media conglomerates. Yet something about his presence made her pulse quicken in a way no man ever had. She excused herself to the powder room, needing a moment to collect her thoughts. The private lounge's bathroom was a marvel of marble and mood lighting. Melissa studied her reflection, adjusting one of her braids. Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, reminding her of all the sacrifices made to get her through school, of the responsibility she carried as a black woman breaking barriers in a predominantly white industry. "You're allowed to want things for yourself," she whispered to her reflection, surprising herself with the declaration. Years of being the responsible one, the achiever, the woman who had to be twice as good to get half the recognition. Perhaps tonight was about more than celebrating a professional milestone. Perhaps it was about finally letting go of who she thought she should be and discovering who she could be. When she emerged, he was waiting. Not obviously, a man like him would never be so overt, but his subtle positioning near her path back to the bar spoke of careful intention. As she passed, the warm notes of his cologne teased her senses. That presentation on authentic storytelling in marginalized communities, his voice was deep and smooth like aged whiskey, was the only thing worth listening to all night. When she raised an eyebrow, he continued. "You weren't asking for representation at the table. You were questioning why the table exists in its current form. That takes courage most people in this room don't have." His words painted pictures that stirred something in her, not just attraction, though that crackled between them like electricity, but a sense of recognition, of a mind that actually understood what she was trying to say in a world that often dismissed or tokenized her ideas. "Do you always use business analysis as a pickup line?" The words slipped out before she could censor them, carrying a playful edge that surprised her. His laugh was genuine, transforming his powerful presence into something more approachable. "Only when I'm genuinely inspired." He offered his hand. "Jeff." "Melissa," she replied, noting how her smaller hand fit perfectly in his. "And for the record, I don't usually do this." "Do what?" His smile held a hint of challenge. "Talk to strangers at industry events. Let myself get drawn into." She gestured vaguely at the chemistry building between them. "Then let's not be strangers." He led her to a private corner of the terrace where the city spread out before them like a glittering promise. "Tell me about what brings that light to your eyes when you think no one's watching." And somehow, she did. She told him about her work, her passion for elevating authentic voices in advertising, the frustration of being the only black woman in most of her client meetings. He listened with genuine interest, asking questions that showed he valued substance over surface. As the night deepened, she found herself drawn not just to his obvious magnetism, but to the intelligence behind his eyes and the way he seemed to truly see her. Not as a diversity hire or a token, but as a brilliant strategist with revolutionary ideas. Hours slipped by like minutes. They talked about everything and nothing. innovation in media, the courage it takes to challenge established systems, their dreams for changing how stories are told. When his hand brushed hers, the contact sent shivers of anticipation down her spine. The professional distance she usually maintained melted under the heat of their connection. Later, she would remember this moment, standing on the edge of a decision that would alter the course of her life. The responsible choice would be to exchange numbers, plan a proper date, follow the rules she'd always lived by. But for once, the voice of caution was silent, replaced by the thundering of her heart and the undeniable pull of something that felt like destiny disguised as chance. When he murmured, "Come home with me," the words held no pressure, just possibility. And for the first time in her meticulously planned life, Melissa Moser chose to follow her heart instead of her head. She didn't know this night would give her everything she never knew she wanted. 2 miracle daughters, a love story that would challenge everything she believed about vulnerability and strength, and a partnership that would transform both their carefully constructed worlds. She didn't know that Jeff was Jeff Lachlan, CEO of Lachlan Global Media, one of the most powerful men in the industry she'd just critiqued so boldly. And she certainly didn't know that in 10 weeks, she'd be staring at a positive pregnancy test, carrying twin girls who would change absolutely everything. But tonight, none of that mattered. Tonight was about the electric connection between 2 people who saw past each other's armor to something real and extraordinary beneath. Tonight was about taking a chance. Tonight was the beginning of a love story neither of them saw coming. One that would test their strength, challenge their fears, and ultimately prove that sometimes the most transformative journeys begin with a single courageous choice to let someone in. Chapter 1. One electric night. The private corner of the terrace became their world, as Manhattan glittered below like a constellation brought to Earth. Melissa found herself leaning closer, drawn by more than just the need to hear Jeff over the ambient music and conversation. There was something magnetic about the way he listened, really listened, as if her words mattered beyond networking pleasantries. "My father built Lachlan Media on the premise that content is king," Jeff said, swirling the amber liquid in his glass. "But he never questioned whose content, whose stories. When I took over, the board fought me on every initiative to diversify our platforms. They see ethics as a liability, not an asset." Melissa's pulse quickened. She didn't know what Lachlan Media was, but she recognized the frustration in his voice, the exhaustion of fighting battles others couldn't see. "Try being the only black woman pitching campaigns to rooms full of men who think diversity means hiring one person of color and calling it progress," she said. "I've had clients tell me my ideas are too ethnic, while stealing those same concepts for their mainstream campaigns. That's exactly what I'm talking about." Jeff's intensity made her breath catch. The system is designed to extract value from marginalized voices, while keeping those voices from real power. You're not asking for a seat at their table, you're building your own. "You actually understood my presentation." Wonder colored her voice. Most people heard her words, but missed the revolutionary framework beneath them. "I understood that you're brilliant." His gaze held hers with unwavering focus. "And that you're going to change this industry whether it's ready or not." The compliment landed differently than the hollow praise she usually received. This felt like recognition, like being truly seen. As midnight approached, their conversation drifted from professional passion to personal revelation. Jeff spoke about the weight of his father's expectations, the loneliness of inherited responsibility. Melissa shared the burden of being a first in her family to graduate college, first black woman to lead campaigns at her firm, always carrying the weight of representation. "Sometimes I wonder who I'd be without the armor," she admitted, surprising herself with the vulnerability. "I wonder that too." His hand covered hers on the table, the touch electric. "About myself, I mean. And about you." The space between them charged with possibility. Melissa felt the familiar voice of caution rising. This was exactly the kind of distraction she couldn't afford, getting involved with someone at an industry event, letting her guard down with a stranger. But when Jeff stood, offering his hand with quiet invitation, she found herself rising to meet him. "My penthouse is close," he said softly. "We could continue this conversation somewhere more private, but only if you want to." Every rational instinct screamed no, but standing there, feeling more alive and seen than she had in years, Melissa made a choice that defied every careful rule. "Yes," she whispered. The elevator ride to his penthouse was charged silence, hands almost touching, anticipation building with each ascending floor. When the doors opened to reveal floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Central Park, Melissa barely noticed the luxury. All she could see was Jeff, stepping closer, his hand gentle on her face. "Tell me if you want me to stop," he murmured. But stopping was the last thing on her mind. Their kiss was inevitable, months of professional restraint dissolving in the heat of genuine connection. When he lifted her, carrying her toward the bedroom, Melissa surrendered to something she'd never allowed herself: the freedom to want without calculating consequences. Later, wrapped in expensive sheets with the city lights painting patterns across their skin. Melissa felt the walls she'd built around her heart beginning to crack. This wasn't just physical attraction. This was recognition. Understanding. The terrifying possibility of being known. "Stay," Jeff whispered against her hair. And in that perfect moment she believed she would. Chapter 2. The morning after. Dawn crept through the floor-to-ceiling windows, painting Jeff's bedroom in shades of rose and gold. Melissa's eyes opened slowly, her body still heavy with sleep and the lingering warmth of intimacy. For one perfect moment, she simply breathed, feeling the expensive sheets against her skin, hearing Jeff's steady breathing beside her. Then reality crashed in like a wave. She sat up carefully, her heart beginning to race as the full scope of her surroundings registered. This wasn't just nice. This was wealth on a scale she'd only seen in magazines. Original artwork adorned the walls, pieces she vaguely recognized from museum exhibitions. The bedroom alone was larger than her entire apartment. Through the windows, Central Park stretched out below like a private kingdom. Her gaze landed on the nightstand. Business journals stacked with precision, a Patek Philippe watch that probably cost more than her car. On the dresser, framed photographs showed Jeff with people she should probably recognize: politicians, celebrities, industry titans. Who is this man? Panic clawed at her chest. Last night, swept up in conversation and chemistry, she hadn't asked the right questions, hadn't protected herself. She'd broken every rule she lived by, sleeping with a stranger, letting her guard down, exposing vulnerabilities she showed no one. What if someone from the industry found out? What if this complicated the award consideration? What if he thought she'd done this strategically, trying to leverage a connection? Melissa slipped from the bed, her professional instincts screaming alarm. She found her champagne jumpsuit draped over a chair, surprisingly unwrinkled. As she dressed, her hands trembled. Part of her, a small, reckless part, wanted to stay. To wake him with a kiss, to see if last night's connection could survive daylight. But fear won. She cast one last look at Jeff's sleeping form, memorizing the peaceful lines of his face, then slipped out of the bedroom. The penthouse's private elevator waited like an escape hatch. She pressed the button, willing the doors to open faster. Just as the elevator descended, Jeff stirred. His hand reached across the bed, finding only cool sheets. His eyes snapped open. Melissa. The empty space beside him told the story. He was out of bed instantly, pulling on pants as he rushed to the window. 4 stories below, he caught a glimpse of champagne silk disappearing into a yellow taxi. Something unfamiliar twisted in his chest, regret, sharp and unexpected. He'd had brief encounters before, relationships that ended with mutual understanding and no complications. But Melissa felt different. The way she'd challenged his thinking, shared her vulnerabilities, looked at him like he was more than his last name or bank account. He reached for his phone, then stopped. He didn't have her number. Didn't even know her last name beyond Melissa. A woman brilliant enough to be shortlisted for major industry awards. And he'd been so caught up in their connection that he hadn't thought to ask basic questions. Jeff stood at the window, watching the taxi disappear into morning traffic. Every instinct said to find her. He had resources, connections. But men in his position didn't chase women who left without a word. That desperation, that neediness, it wasn't who he was. Except nothing about last night had felt like who he usually was. In the taxi, Melissa pressed her forehead against the cool window, watching the Upper East Side blur past. Her body still hummed with the memory of his touch, but her mind had already begun the work of compartmentalization. Just one night, she whispered to herself. One perfect night. Nothing more. But even as she said it, she knew she was lying. Some part of her had shifted last night, opened in a way she couldn't quite close again. Back in his penthouse, Jeff made a decision. He would find her. Not today, not in some desperate rush that might scare her off. But he would find the brilliant woman who'd seen past his wealth to the man beneath, who'd challenged him to think differently, who'd fit in his arms like she belonged there. Some connections were too rare to let slip away. Even if neither of them knew yet that this connection had already created something neither could walk away from. 2 tiny heartbeats that would bind them together in ways far deeper than one extraordinary night. Chapter 3. 2 pink lines. 10 weeks had passed since that night, but Melissa still found herself distracted at the worst moments. Like now, in the middle of presenting campaign concepts to their biggest potential client, when exhaustion hit her like a physical weight. The authentic voice strategy leverages micro-influencers from within the target demographic. Her words felt thick, and the conference room's fluorescent lights seemed unbearably bright. She pushed through, ignoring the nausea that had become her constant companion for the past 3 weeks. After the client left, impressed, thankfully, Kendra cornered her in the break room. Okay, what's going on? You've been pale for weeks, you barely touch your coffee anymore, and you practically fell asleep during that presentation. Just stress, Melissa said automatically. The campaign pitch for next week. Your period's late, isn't it? Melissa's hands stilled on her water bottle. She'd been attributing everything to stress from the upcoming pitch, the exhaustion, the morning sickness she refused to call morning sickness, the way certain smells made her stomach revolt. But her period was now 2 weeks late, and her cycles were usually precise as clockwork. Go home, Kendra said gently. Stop at a pharmacy first. Just check. An hour later, Melissa sat on her bathroom floor, staring at 2 pink lines that were rewriting her entire future. The pregnancy test trembled in her hands as her mind raced through impossible calculations. 10 weeks ago. The gala. Jeff. Oh God. Her hands shook as she scheduled an emergency appointment with Dr. Patricia Chen, her OB/GYN. The next morning felt surreal, going through the motions of checking in, changing into a gown, lying back on the examination table. Let's take a look, Dr. Chen said warmly, applying gel to Melissa's still flat stomach. The ultrasound wand pressed gently, and suddenly the room filled with a sound like galloping horses, rapid, determined heartbeats. There's baby A, Dr. Chen said, pointing to the screen. Then her expression shifted slightly. And there's baby B. Melissa, you're carrying fraternal twins. The world tilted. Melissa stared at the screen, at 2 distinct forms with flickering heartbeats, and felt everything she'd carefully planned dissolving like sand. Twins, she whispered. Both measuring right at 10 weeks, Dr. Chen continued. Separate amniotic sacs, which is good. But twin pregnancies are automatically considered high risk. We'll need frequent monitoring, and you'll need to consider reducing your work hours in the 3rd trimester. High risk, work adjustments. Twin pregnancies meant double the expenses, double the medical complications, double everything she'd need to prepare for alone. The father, Dr. Chen asked gently. Will he be involved in prenatal care? Melissa's laugh was bitter. I don't even know his last name. It was one night, and She couldn't finish. How could she explain that she'd felt more connected to a stranger in one evening than to anyone in years? Yet she'd fled before learning basic information like his full name or how to contact him. That evening, Kendra arrived with takeout and determination. Okay, mystery baby daddy. Tell me everything you remember. His first name was Jeff. He was at the Innovation in Media Gala. He knew about my presentation, seemed really invested in ethical journalism and diverse storytelling. Melissa trailed off, realizing how little concrete information she had. Kendra was already on her laptop. Jeff at a media industry gala, clearly wealthy based on your description of the penthouse, passionate about ethical journalism. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, then suddenly stopped. Her face went pale. What? Melissa. Kendra turned the laptop around slowly. Was this him? The screen showed a Forbes article. Jeff Lachlan, CEO of Lachlan Global Media, announces major diversity initiative. The photo showed Jeff in a perfectly tailored suit, looking every inch the powerful executive. Melissa's vision blurred. Jeff Lachlan, one of the most powerful men in media. The CEO of a company her firm had been trying to pitch for months, and she was carrying his children. Oh my God, she breathed. Over the following days, Melissa threw herself into research with the same intensity she brought to campaign strategy. Twin pregnancy statistics, childcare costs, maternity leave policies. Her apartment filled with notebooks covered in meticulous plans and calculations. She could do this. She'd faced impossible odds before. But late at night, sitting alone in her apartment with her hands resting on her still flat stomach, the fear crept in. How would she tell him? Should she even try? What if he thought she'd done this deliberately, trying to trap one of the industry's most eligible bachelors? I don't know how to find your father, she whispered to the tiny lives growing inside her. I don't know if he'll want to know you, but I promise you this. You will never doubt that you're wanted. You will never feel like mistakes. Whatever it takes, we're going to be okay. In the darkness, 2 tiny hearts beat steadily, already fighters like their mother. Melissa didn't know that across the city, Jeff Lachlan was still searching for the brilliant woman who disappeared from his bed and his life. Didn't know that fate was already arranging their collision course. Tomorrow, her firm would receive an unexpected invitation, a chance to pitch for Lachlan Global Media's major rebranding campaign. And Melissa's carefully compartmentalized worlds were about to collide in the most impossible, complicated way imaginable. Chapter 4. The Search. Jeff stared at the quarterly reports without seeing them, his mind drifting for the 3rd time in an hour. The numbers blurred as memory took over. Melissa's laugh, the way her eyes lit up when discussing her vision for authentic storytelling, the perfect fit of her hand in his. Earth to Jeff. His sister Amanda waved a hand in front of his face across the dinner table at their usual Wednesday spot. You've been somewhere else all night. What's going on? He set down his fork, debating how much to share. Amanda had always been able to read him, even when he tried to hide behind his CEO mask. I met someone, at the Innovation Gala 10 weeks ago. And Amanda leaned forward, intrigued. What's she like? Brilliant. Challenging. She saw me, really saw me. Not just the company or the name. Jeff ran a hand through his hair. And then she disappeared before I could get her number, or even her last name. Amanda's expression shifted from curiosity to concern. You're serious about finding her? I can't stop thinking about her. The admission felt raw. That's not who I am, Amanda. I don't chase. I don't get distracted. But it's been 10 weeks, and I still... Then find her, Amanda said simply. You have resources. Use them. Within 48 hours, Jeff had hired Marcus Chen, the most discreet private investigator in Manhattan. The parameters were simple. Woman named Melissa attended the Innovation in Media Gala. Presentation on authentic storytelling in marginalized communities. Works in advertising or marketing. Meanwhile, across town in her corner office at Lachlan Global Media, Victoria Crane watched Jeff with calculating interest. His distraction hadn't gone unnoticed. For months, she'd been laying groundwork for a hostile takeover, waiting for the perfect moment. A distracted CEO made mistakes, and mistakes created opportunities. She made a call to her own investigator. Whatever had Jeff Lachlan losing focus was worth knowing. Marcus's report arrived via encrypted email 5 days later. Jeff opened it in his private office, pulse quickening as he read. Subject: Melissa Moser, 27, Senior Marketing Executive at Sterling & Associates. Harvard graduate, multiple industry awards for innovative campaign design. Reputation as rising star in authentic brand storytelling. Recent campaign shortlisted for Innovation in Media Award. No social media presence beyond professional LinkedIn. Private, focused, ambitious. Jeff studied the professional photo attached. Melissa in business attire, her box braids styled elegantly, her expression confident and composed. Even in the formal corporate headshot, he could see the fire that had drawn him to her. The report detailed her impressive career trajectory. Youngest senior executive at Sterling & Associates, pioneering work in inclusive marketing, glowing testimonials from colleagues about her strategic brilliance. Everything he'd sensed that night was confirmed. She wasn't just smart, she was transformative. He reached for his phone 3 times, debating. Showing up at her office felt aggressive, potentially inappropriate. But doing nothing meant letting this connection slip away completely. Before he could decide, his assistant buzzed through. Mr. Lachlan, the board is asking about the Sterling & Associates pitch next week. They're shortlisted for the rebranding campaign. Jeff's hand froze over the phone. Sterling & Associates? Yes, sir. They're sending their top team. I can forward the roster if... Do it now. The email arrived seconds later. Jeff scrolled through the names, and there it was. Melissa Moser, Senior Marketing Executive, Lead Strategist. His world narrowed to a single point of focus. In 1 week, Melissa would walk into his boardroom, completely unaware of who he really was. The irony wasn't lost on him. She'd been critiquing media monopolies, and he was the CEO of one of the largest. Across town, Victoria's investigator delivered his report. She read about Melissa Moser with growing interest, noting the connection to Jeff's distraction, the upcoming pitch, the potential leverage. A slow smile crossed her face. Sometimes opportunity arrived gift-wrapped. Jeff closed his laptop, his decision made. He wouldn't reach out beforehand, wouldn't influence the pitch process. But when Melissa walked into that boardroom, they would finally have the conversation that had been interrupted 10 weeks ago. He just hoped she'd give him the chance to explain who he really was, and why he'd never stop looking for her. Chapter 5. Collision Course. Melissa stood outside the Lachlan Global Media Tower, fighting another wave of nausea. 14 weeks pregnant, and morning sickness was a cruel misnomer. It struck at all hours, particularly at the worst possible moments. She'd thrown up twice already this morning, but this pitch was too important to postpone. You good? Kendra asked quietly, handing her a ginger candy. I'm fine. Melissa straightened, willing her body to cooperate for just 2 more hours. She'd prepared for weeks, knew this campaign inside and out. The fact that Jeff Lachlan owned this company meant nothing. He probably wouldn't even attend the pitch. CEOs rarely sat in on these presentations. The boardroom was all glass and steel, projecting power and innovation. Melissa set up her materials with practiced efficiency, ignoring the flutter in her stomach that had nothing to do with pregnancy. Her flowing blouse disguised the subtle changes to her body, the slight swell that only she noticed, the way her clothes fit differently. They're ready for you, an assistant announced. Melissa walked into the boardroom, her team flanking her, confidence radiating from every step. She looked up to greet the decision-makers, and the world stopped. Jeff Lachlan sat at the head of the table, and their eyes met with the force of a physical collision. Recognition slammed through her, shock, attraction, confusion, all hitting simultaneously. His expression flickered with the same devastating awareness before settling into professional composure. But his eyes never left her face, and she saw everything in that gaze: surprise, desire, questions. Jeff Lachlan. The stranger from the gala was Jeff Lachlan. Ms. Moser. His voice was controlled, giving nothing away to the other executives in the room. We're looking forward to your presentation. Somehow Melissa found her voice. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Lachlan. The words felt surreal. She launched into her presentation on autopilot, years of professional training taking over, even as her mind screamed with chaos. Our proposal centers on authentic storytelling that elevates marginalized voices, not as tokens, but as the foundation of your brand narrative. She spoke about representation, about challenging established systems, about building platforms rather than just offering seats at existing tables. Every word echoed their conversation from that night, and she saw recognition flicker in Jeff's eyes. Interesting approach, Jeff said when she paused. His tone was measured, but his question was pointed. How do you ensure authenticity doesn't become another marketing buzzword? That we're actually changing systems, rather than just appearing to? It was exactly what they discussed on the terrace, the question beneath the question. He was telling her he remembered. Every word, every moment. By putting decision-making power in the hands of the communities we're representing, Melissa answered, meeting his gaze directly. Not asking permission to tell their stories, but creating structures where they control their own narratives. The presentation continued, 45 minutes that felt both eternal and instantaneous. When it ended, the other executives asked clarifying questions, but Jeff remained silent, his attention focused entirely on her. Excellent work, one of the board members said finally. We'll be in touch within the week. As Melissa's team began packing up, Jeff stood. Ms. Moser, could I have a word, privately? It wasn't really a request. Kendra shot her a concerned look, but Melissa nodded. Of course. Jeff's office was exactly what she'd expect. Powerful, sophisticated, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Manhattan. The door closed behind them with a soft click, and suddenly they were alone for the first time in 14 weeks. You left, Jeff said quietly, the professional mask dropping. No note. No number. Nothing. You didn't tell me who you were, Melissa countered, her carefully constructed walls cracking. Jeff Lachlan. You let me criticize media monopolies, while you run one of the largest. I told you my first name. You never asked for more. He moved closer, and she felt that same magnetic pull from the gala. I've been looking for you, Melissa. For 14 weeks. I couldn't. Her voice broke. That night was a mistake. I don't do things like that. I don't sleep with strangers, and it wasn't a mistake. His intensity pinned her in place, and we both know it. Her hand moved unconsciously to her stomach, a protective gesture she'd developed over the past few weeks. Jeff's eyes followed the movement, and she watched understanding dawn across his face. Melissa. His voice was barely a whisper. Are you? The question hung between them, changing everything. Chapter 6. Truth and Consequences. Are you pregnant? Jeff's voice was steady, but Melissa saw his hand grip the edge of his desk. The truth sat heavy on her tongue. She could lie, could walk away and handle this alone like she'd planned. But looking into his eyes, seeing the genuine concern there, the words came out before she could stop them. Yes, with twins. They're yours. Jeff's face transformed, shock rippling across his usually controlled features, followed by wonder, fear, and something that looked like fierce determination. He was silent for a long moment, processing, and Melissa braced herself for anger or accusations. Instead, he moved into action. You need the best prenatal care. I'll have my assistant contact the top maternal-fetal medicine specialists in the city. Twin pregnancies are high risk, so we'll need comprehensive monitoring. And security. You can't be dealing with this alone. Financial support is obviously. Stop. Melissa's voice cut through his planning. Just stop. You don't get to throw money at this and think it's solved. I'm not. Jeff ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. I'm trying to help, to provide what you need. What I need is not to be managed like one of your corporate acquisitions. Her voice shook with emotion she couldn't contain. I've been handling this for 4 weeks. I have plans, resources, a career I've worked my entire life to build. I don't need you to swoop in and take over. They're my children too. His intensity matched hers. What am I supposed to do, Melissa? Ignore this? Pretend I don't have a responsibility? Responsibility. The word tasted bitter. Is that what this is? Obligation? That's not what I meant. Jeff's composure cracked further. My father was never present. He built an empire, but couldn't be bothered to show up for school events or birthdays. I swore I'd never be that man, and now, his voice broke. I don't know how to be a father, but I know I won't be absent. The vulnerability in his admission deflated her anger. Melissa sank into one of his office chairs, exhaustion washing over her. I'm terrified, she whispered. Terrified people will think I trapped you. That this will destroy my career before it really begins. That I'll lose myself in being someone's baby mama, someone's kept woman. Jeff knelt beside her chair, his presence solid and grounding. You could never be just anything. You're Melissa Moser, brilliant strategist, innovative thinker, the woman who challenged everything I thought I knew about authentic storytelling. He paused. And yes, the mother of my children. But one doesn't diminish the other. This situation is impossible, Melissa said, but her hand found his. We barely know each other. Then let's change that. Jeff's thumb traced circles on her palm. Move into one of my properties. Separate space, complete privacy. Just until the babies are born. No. Melissa pulled her hand back. I won't be kept. Won't give up my independence. What about a compromise? Jeff stood, pacing as he thought. I arrange for the best prenatal care. Non-negotiable. Twins are high risk. Discreet security. Just someone to ensure you're safe. And we attend appointments together. Get to know each other properly this time. Slowly, Melissa emphasized. No press releases. No grand gestures. We figure this out, step by step. Step by step, Jeff agreed. Starting with your next appointment. When is it? Tomorrow morning. Dr. Chen wants to do another ultrasound, now that we're at 14 weeks. I'll be there. The next morning, Melissa found Jeff waiting outside Dr. Chen's office, looking oddly vulnerable in jeans and a casual shirt, the CEO armor temporarily set aside. In the examination room, he held her hand as Dr. Chen applied the ultrasound wand. There's baby A, Dr. Chen said, and suddenly the room filled with the rapid-fire sound of a heartbeat. And baby B, both measuring perfectly for 14 weeks. On the screen, two distinct forms moved and shifted. Melissa watched Jeff's face as he saw his daughters for the first time, watched wonder replace uncertainty, watched something fundamental shift in his expression. They're real, he whispered, his hand tightening around hers. They're real, Melissa confirmed, tears sliding down her face. In that moment, watching their daughters on the screen, the impossibility of their situation seemed less important than the profound connection forming, not just between the two of them, but between parents and the children who would change everything. We can do this, Jeff said softly. Together, and for the first time since seeing those two pink lines, Melissa believed him. Chapter 7. Storms Gathering. At 20 weeks, Melissa could no longer hide her pregnancy. She'd announced it at Sterling & Associates with careful vagueness about the father, focusing instead on her plans to continue working remotely after the twins arrived. Most colleagues offered congratulations, though she noticed the speculative glances, the whispered questions about who and when. She didn't notice Victoria Crane's investigator photographing her leaving Dr. Chen's office with Jeff, his hand protective on her lower back. The headline hit on a Tuesday morning. Media mogul's secret babies. Jeff Laughlin's affair with employee exposed. Melissa's phone exploded with notifications. The article was everywhere. Business sections, entertainment gossip sites, social media. The gossip columnist had twisted the facts perfectly, implying she worked for Laughlin Global, suggesting impropriety, painting her as someone who'd strategically positioned herself to trap a billionaire. The racist and sexist commentary came immediately. Gold digger. Opportunist. Worse words she couldn't bear to read. Her accomplishments, her career, her identity, all reduced to scheming after a wealthy white man. We need to release a statement, Kendra urged, arriving at Melissa's apartment within an hour of the story breaking. But Melissa was frozen, reading comment after comment, questioning her integrity, her intelligence, her worth. Everything she'd feared was materializing in real time. Across town, Jeff's board called an emergency session. Conservative members demanded he distance himself immediately, citing fiduciary responsibility and shareholder concerns. Victoria Crane sat among them, her expression appropriately concerned while internally celebrating every moment of chaos. This scandal undermines everything Laughlin Global stands for, one board member argued. You need to issue a denial, create separation. Jeff's phone buzzed. Melissa's name. He answered immediately, ignoring the board's disapproval. Jeff. Her voice was tight with pain. Something's wrong. He was moving before she finished the sentence. I'm on my way. Call 911. Mr. Laughlin, this meeting isn't finished. It is now. Jeff grabbed his jacket, already dialing his driver. My family needs me. He found Melissa in the emergency room at Mount Sinai, Dr. Chen, performing an urgent ultrasound. Threatened preterm labor, the doctor explained tersely. At 28 weeks, the baby's lungs aren't fully developed. We're administering medication to stop the contractions, but this is serious. Jeff took Melissa's hand, watching monitors track their daughter's heartbeats. Melissa's face was pale, tears streaming silently. They're too small, she whispered. It's too early. They're fighters, Jeff said, though fear gripped his chest. Like their mother, Dr. Chen's expression was grave after stabilizing the contractions. Complete bed rest for the remainder of the pregnancy. No stress, minimal movement. You'll need 24/7 monitoring and immediate access to emergency care. She'll stay with me, Jeff said immediately. My penthouse has medical-grade equipment, private nursing staff. Jeff, I can't, Melissa started. You can, and you will. His voice left no room for argument. This isn't about pride or independence anymore. It's about keeping our daughters safe. Melissa looked at Dr. Chen, who nodded seriously. He's right. You need comprehensive care that's difficult to arrange in a standard apartment. Too scared to fight, too exhausted to argue, Melissa finally agreed. The penthouse guest suite became her world, a luxurious prison where she lay still while their daughters grew. Jeff worked from the adjacent room, always within earshot. Nurses checked vitals every 4 hours. Dr. Chen visited daily. Meanwhile, Victoria escalated her takeover attempt, using the scandal to sway conservative board members. She painted Jeff as distracted, reckless, unfit for leadership, but she hadn't counted on what happened when the media empire's CEO stopped caring about the empire. Late one night, unable to sleep, Melissa found Jeff at her bedside, his hand resting gently on her swollen belly, where one of the twins was kicking. I'm sorry, she whispered, for the scandal, for complicating your life. Stop. Jeff's voice was rough with emotion. You gave me something I didn't know I was missing. Purpose beyond profit margins. A reason to care about more than the next acquisition. He paused, meeting her eyes in the dim light. I love you, Melissa. Not because of the babies, though I love them desperately, but because you challenged me to be better, to see beyond my limited world. Melissa's breath caught. I love you too, she admitted, the truth finally spoken. I think I have since that first night. His kiss was gentle, reverent, full of promise and fear and hope. Outside, storms gathered. Corporate battles, media scrutiny, Victoria's schemes. But here, in this quiet moment, two people who'd started as strangers found something worth fighting for. Each other, and the family they were becoming. Chapter 8, The Crucible. The weeks of bed rest transformed Jeff's penthouse into their own private world. Melissa woke each morning to find Jeff already working at the desk he'd moved into her suite, his presence a constant comfort. They shared meals, him learning her cravings, her teasing him about his terrible taste in breakfast cereals. Late nights became their favorite time, when he'd read business proposals aloud and she'd offer strategic insights that often shifted his entire approach. You see patterns I miss, Jeff admitted one evening, revising a media partnership deal based on her observations. When this is over, when you're ready, I want to invest in your agency. Melissa's hand stilled on her belly. I can't accept that. Why not? It's a sound business investment. Because it would always be your money, your influence. Her voice was gentle but firm. I need to build something that's mine, Jeff. You understand that. He did. It was one of the things he loved about her, that fierce independence, even when accepting help would be easier. At 32 weeks, during a routine check, the nurse's expression changed. Your blood pressure is dangerously elevated. I'm calling Dr. Chen. Within hours, Melissa was back at Mount Sinai, monitors tracking every vital sign. Preeclampsia, Dr. Chen confirmed. Severe. We're managing it with medication, but if it worsens, we'll need to deliver immediately. Jeff's phone buzzed incessantly. His assistant, board members, Amanda. The board vote on Victoria's takeover attempt was scheduled for tomorrow morning. Years of building Lachlan Global Media hung in the balance. You have to go, Melissa said, reading the tension in his face. Jeff, your company means nothing compared to you and our daughters. He silenced his phone. I'm not leaving. Your father's legacy. My father, Jeff interrupted quietly, built an empire but lost his family. I won't make that mistake. He took her hand, pressing it to his lips. The company will survive or it won't. But I need you to survive. Both of you. Melissa's eyes filled with tears. I love you. I love you too. More than any empire. Amanda arrived an hour later, still in her business suit, determination in her eyes. I'm attending the board meeting as your proxy, she announced. I'll deliver your statement about family values and authentic leadership. Victoria can't argue with that narrative. Amanda, you don't have to. Yes, I do. You taught me that family comes first. She squeezed Jeff's shoulder. I've got this. You stay with them. That night, as Manhattan slept, one of the twins' heart rate dropped on the monitor. Alarms sounded. Dr. Chen appeared with the surgical team. We need to deliver now, she said. Emergency C-section. At 34 weeks, they're premature but viable. But we can't wait any longer. Everything moved with terrifying speed. Melissa was prepped for surgery, Jeff scrubbing in beside her, both of them trying to control their fear. In the operating room's harsh light, surrounded by beeping monitors and medical staff, their eyes met. "I'm scared," Melissa whispered as the anesthesiologist prepared the spinal block. Jeff held her hand, his grip anchoring her. "Me too, but we're in this together, remember? From that first night to right now, we're in this together. No matter what," Melissa completed, their shared promise. The surgical drape went up, blocking their view. Dr. Chen's calm voice guided the team. Jeff stayed by Melissa's head, whispering reassurances, his other hand stroking her braids. "Here we go," Dr. Chen announced. "First baby coming." The world held its breath. Then, a cry. Strong, indignant, beautiful. "It's a girl," a nurse announced. "Baby A, good color, good tone." Seconds later, another cry joined the first. "Baby B, also a girl." Both breathing on their own. Tears streamed down Jeff's face as he watched his daughters, tiny, perfect, fighting, being quickly assessed and wrapped. Melissa sobbed with relief, exhaustion, overwhelming love. "You did it," Jeff whispered against her temple. "They're here. They're breathing." "You did it. We did it," Melissa corrected, her hand finding his. In that moment, as their daughter's cries filled the operating room, everything else faded. Board meetings, takeover attempts, scandals. Nothing mattered except this. Their family, born from one extraordinary night and forged through crisis into something unbreakable. Chapter 9. 2 Miracles and New Beginnings. Maya emerged first, tiny but fierce, her cry filling the operating room with determination. 60 seconds later, Zara followed, smaller and quieter but equally strong. Maya and Zara Moser-Lachlan, 2 perfect miracles born at 34 weeks, weighing just over 4 pounds each. "They're beautiful," Jeff whispered as nurses whisked the twins to warming tables for assessment. Both girls breathed on their own, their little lungs performing better than anyone dared hope. "NICU for monitoring," Dr. Chen explained as Melissa was being closed. "Standard for preemies, but their vitals are excellent. You have 2 fighters." The NICU became their universe. Melissa, still recovering from surgery, spent hours beside the incubators, her hands reaching through the ports to touch her daughter's impossibly small fingers. Jeff learned to change diapers designed for dolls, to hold bottles measured in milliliters, to speak softly so his deep voice wouldn't startle their fragile girls. On day 3, Amanda arrived with news. The board voted. Victoria's takeover failed, decisively. "My speech about family values and authentic leadership resonated, but honestly, it was your actions that sealed it. The board respects a man who prioritizes what truly matters." Jeff barely looked up from where Maya gripped his finger. "Good." The next day, he released a carefully crafted statement accompanied by photos of his daughters. 3 days ago, my world changed. Maya and Zara Moser-Lachlan entered this world early, small, but absolutely perfect. Their mother, Melissa Moser, is the most brilliant, courageous woman I've ever known. Our journey hasn't been conventional, but it's been real. I'm proud to be their father, and honored that Melissa has chosen to build this family with me. Public sentiment shifted overnight. The narrative changed from scandal to love story, from impropriety to authentic leadership. Stock prices rose. Victoria quietly resigned, but Jeff and Melissa noticed none of it, too focused on their daughter's progress. 3 weeks in NICU felt like years and moments simultaneously. Both girls gained weight, their tiny bodies growing stronger daily. When Sterling and Associates offered Melissa a partnership, she declined from Maya's bedside. "I'm starting my own agency," she announced. Authentic voices, focused on elevating marginalized storytellers. Jeff looked up from feeding Zara. "Let me invest, as an equal partner, with you maintaining creative control." Melissa studied him, the man who'd learned to surrender control, to prioritize presence over power. "Equal partners," she agreed. "In everything." The day the twins came home, Jeff's penthouse transformed. The nursery he'd designed held 2 cribs, monitors, every possible necessity. But it was the rocking chair by the window, the one Melissa had admired weeks ago, that made her cry. Late that night, both girls finally asleep, Jeff found Melissa in the nursery. She stood between the cribs, one hand on each, tears streaming down her face. "Hey," he whispered, wrapping his arms around her from behind. "What's wrong?" "Nothing. Everything's perfect." She turned in his embrace. "I'm just overwhelmed by how much my life has changed." Jeff pulled back slightly, reaching into his pocket. "Then maybe this is terrible timing, but I can't wait another moment." He knelt, opening a small velvet box. "Melissa Moser, you challenged everything I thought I knew about love, about priorities, about what makes life meaningful. You gave me these 2 perfect daughters, and showed me that true strength is allowing yourself to be vulnerable. Will you marry me? Build this unconventional, beautiful life with me officially?" Melissa's laugh was watery with tears. Yes, but I'm keeping my name. Moser Lachlan, equal partners in everything. Equal partners in everything, Jeff agreed, slipping the ring onto her finger. 3 months later, in the penthouse garden transformed with flowers and soft lights, they exchanged vows before their closest family and friends. Maya and Zara, now healthy and thriving, wore matching cream dresses, held by their beaming grandmothers. I promise to honor your independence while building our partnership, Jeff said, his voice thick with emotion. To prioritize presence over empire, love over legacy. I promise to trust you with my vulnerability, Melissa responded, while maintaining my strength. To build something extraordinary together, a family, a business, a love that transforms us both. As the sun set over Manhattan, they stood together, Melissa and Jeff, Maya and Zara, a family born from one electric night and forged through crisis into something unbreakable. The city sparkled beneath them, witness to a love story that had defied convention and emerged stronger for it. Jeff pulled Melissa close, their daughters between them, and whispered, "Thank you for saying yes that night. Thank you for never stopping looking for me," Melissa replied. And as their daughters cooed softly, the family of four stood silhouetted against the skyline, proof that sometimes the most valuable empires are built not from power and profit, but from love, partnership, and the courage to let someone see your whole heart.